a very important part of the entire product development and business model development phase. It's really understanding who your customers are, right? There are usually two different channels for you to basically arrive at the product. You can either come from a problem, right? You observe a problem and then you try to look for who are those that are experiencing this problem, and then you solve for those people. You define a product that works for them, and that works. Other times you can come from the perspective of a customer, where you identify stakeholders, individuals who are more or less like in the society, and then you focus on defining what are the problems that these people have, and then you come up with solutions for them. But regardless of the channel that you take, you always end up solving for someone. You always end up serving someone, and that person is who you refer to as your customers. They can come, it can be B2B, B2C, B2B2C. Regardless, you're always attending to a person's needs, and that person is what you need to focus on. Many a times, what happens with a lot of startup founders is that they emphasize more on the product and they forget the people. You want to make sure that you don't fall for the same trap. You want to make sure that you're solving for the customer. So today I'm going to be as practical as possible. We're going to be looking at different frameworks and templates that would help you properly define who your customers are and basically walk you through the process of research, right? And then eventually coming down to a product that really works. I remember at the beginning, Henry emphasizing on the need to, and even Benjamin emphasizing on the need to be open to pivot. The reason why you're being open to pivot is not necessarily because you're more or less changing direction for the sake of changing direction. No, you are interacting with these individuals and they're telling you that this is a much more bigger problem for me than what I thought, right? Than what you're thinking, right? And then you pivot in order to solve that person's problem. Okay? So this is very, very important. So at this stage, you probably have like an idea, right, of what you want to do. So just just for the next few minutes, right, just tell me a sentence that describes the problem that you're trying to solve. Both of you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, ma'am.
In a sentence, describe the problem you're solving.
I guess I'll go first. The problem I'm solving is the overwhelming problem of plastics and also the expensive cost of bricks for housing construction.
Right. Good. Konji Manuel.
Okay. I mean, the problem I was looking towards connecting farmers and consumers to bridge that broken supply gap, allowing the farmers to get their goods better and to the consumers more faster than what they're currently taking.
Sorry, can you take that again? I want you to focus on the problem, not necessarily on the solution. Right, so what problem are you trying to solve? So you want to tackle the problem of this, and this, right?
Supply.
Akonji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So yeah, tell me, what problem are you trying to solve? What problem is Symbios trying to solve?
Site still on the process.
What? I didn't get you. I don't know. Am I the only one not able to hear him well? Can you guys hear me at all? Is anybody there?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, but can you guys hear
Yeah, I also didn't get what Akonji Manuel said. It was a bit muffled.
All right.
Emmanuel, are you there?
Okay.
Or you can.
I know he's on his way, so that could be. Okay, okay.
No, 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 this is not. Akonji is Symbiosis.
Yes.
I think Ike Bricks is the one on his way. Okay. I need to confirm if you can actually hear me, Akonji, before I go ahead.
Emmanuel can hear you, ma.
All right. Thank you. Akonji, Manuel, can you hear me?
Because of time.
We're having network issue. Maybe you can go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay. All right. So I'll go ahead. I'm hoping that Emmanuel will be able to join in as quickly as possible before we dive in very deep. Okay. So just like I said, right? I said to Akonji to let me know the problem, not exactly the solution, because we always want to come from this is a problem that exists, and these are the people that are experiencing the problem, right? Before we now go down into the whole customer research, right? That is very important. It's okay. Emmanuel, Akonji, can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes. Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. So quickly.
In response
yes.
to the question you asked.
Right? I didn't get you.
In response to the question you asked before, so what I was trying to do was creating a space whereby the farmer and the consumer can actually conduct business, thereby bridging that the farmers in the gap they actually find consumers, and on the end of the consumers they actually have access to directly purchase goods from the farm, saving them in the cost.
All right. So what you just explained to me is the solution. I want you to explain to me the problem. So is it that farmers find it difficult to sell as quickly as possible? What exactly is the problem? Or is it that customers, the average Nigerian, can't find certain kind of products as quickly as possible or in a very cost-effective way? Did you get that?
The farmers actually find it difficult to sell as quickly as possible, while the consumers actually find it difficult to actually get that standard of that very high quality produce from the sources to which they actually outsource them.
All right. That is a very important statement, and I need you to find a place in your book to write that down. Okay. So in the same format, Emmanuel Adekunle, explain to me what problem you're trying to solve. This is for Adekunle Ikebrich.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to solve the problem of expensive bricks for building, and also plastic waste blocking drainages and causing havoc.
Right. All right. That is good. So once you define your problem, the next thing you want to figure out is who are the people experiencing this problem? Who are they? Where are they? And how? So basically, we're going to walk through the process of truly defining, who they are, so that in the end you can find out a solution that truly works, right, for those people. Now that whole process of that customer research process actually is very important, and it helps you really understand the people you're solving for. That way, you're not solving a problem that you feel exists, but you're solving a problem that truly exists. All right? So I am going to share with you. I'm going to share my screen. I want to show you a chart that will give you a picture of how do you go about this process.
Okay, Cynthia, I've stopped presenting now. So
and then after that, all right. And And then after that, I'll share with you a template and I'll walk you through a template that will guide your whole process. Okay? All right. Thank you. All right. Confirm if you can see my screen.
I can see your screen, man.
Take for example, this is the problem that this is the problem I believe exists. The next thing you do is who are the people currently experiencing the problem. Now, once you've identified a name or a category for those people, it is time for you to break things down, right? And I'm going to explain to you why it is very important and how it will help you in your research process. I'll give this example. This was a research process done by IDEO. IDEO is one of the most amazing design thinking companies in the world. They've developed fantastic products for different companies around the world. And this particular project that we had was a request sent by Bank of America, right? So Bank of America sent a request saying they are trying to, let's say, so they were trying to get people, all right? They were trying to get mothers, specifically mothers, to adopt the idea of savings, right? But the product that they had in the market wasn't really gaining a lot of traction. And they were worried and they sent for IDEO to help them, help make this happen. Like, how do we get these people to save, right? So from this angle, Bank of America already had what they were solving for. But I want us to look at the whole process. So what happened? IDEO came back into the meeting room, had their guys together, and they had the board, plain board, and they said, okay, who are we solving for? So they said, okay, they want to get mothers, stay-at-home moms to save more, right? So in order to truly solve for these people, they began to write out these different areas, these different things, right, about this stay-at-home mom. So the first one, they had to look into their daily routines. What is a day like for this particular customer, this stay-at-home moms? And they realized that, very early in the morning they wake up, they take care of the kids, they take the kids to school, they go for a bit of shopping. By the time they're done shopping, they come back home, they make some accounting, do some budgeting, and they try to save some money based on the change that they had. And pretty much, how did they discover this? They went and they picked about 5 to 10 stay-at-home moms, and they followed them about their daily routine, right? So they interacted with the stay-at-home moms. They stayed at home with those moms. They followed them to where they were going to. Actually, they request for permission. But basically, they wanted to know what is a life, what is a day like in this particular individual's life, or this particular customer that they're looking at, right? So they jotted every single activity that a typical stay-at-home mom will make in order to figure out how do we make these people save more money. So they realized that, these women, they take out the change that they make. So when they go out for shopping, they have like maybe 20 cents. So that can be like in coins, and they put it in a jar in their homes, right? So, and that's how they save, right? So 2, they looked out for pain points, right? What are the pain points? So they realized that it's a lot stressful and time consuming if they have to come back. Sometimes they might just forget and not decide to do it anymore. So they just leave it and let go, right? They also look at the language, obviously English. They looked at for the keywords and phrases to basically define this particular persona. This is very important, right? So just to round up the story before I go deep into these areas, right? They now figured out that it's time consuming for this mother to come back at the end of the day to write things down, because they still have to make dinner for the home, and they still take care of the kids, go pick up the kids and come back, right? But then in between the process, they realize that these women take their cards for shopping, and once they buy stuff, right, there's a little bit of change, and that change is what they save in their pockets. So they said to themselves, okay, how about we, for every $1 or for every amount, everything they spend for that day, they would take away the change basically and round up the figure, right, and save that amount for that particular stay at home, right? So they took that idea, proposed it to the customer personnel. In that case, the stay at home moms. They tested it for a period of time and it worked, and that was how Bank of America took on this whole product and began to run it since then, right? Now, what you need to focus on is not really like the solution they came up with, it's the process. They decided to learn more about that person. And that's why customer research is super important. You can truly understand like what is their daily routine. So for example, let's take Symbios for example. Who is my stakeholder in this case? Let's say the farmers. How do they get their materials? Who are they concerned? What is a day like in their life? Right? How do they sell? Who do they buy from? What do they buy? How do they keep track of their expenses? Who are they interacting with on a daily basis? Really taking note of those things is very important. What are the factors that influence construction companies to use blocks? Right? What are the things they look out for when they're trying to use a particular material for a construction project? How can I truly immerse myself into the life of my customer, right? So a customer persona, you're looking at the daily routines, you're looking at their pain points, you're looking at the language person. That person might be creating a product for multiple countries, right? You're looking at some keywords and phrases, keywords that they might even like share. You just notice that that every single person you're interacting with in a particular category keeps saying, I have problem with suppliers, or I have problem with this, or they keep saying, oh, I go to this place to get this, and everybody keeps saying that they go to a particular location to get it. You take note of that, right? Also, you want to look at the key influencers. What influences this person to make a decision? For a person who is trying to create a product for a child, you want to know who is the person influencing that child's life. It's the parent. So probably you need to start looking at how do I get the attention of the parents so that the parents can actually buy the product that this child wants, right? Look out for the things that influence your customers in making a decision. Could it be that for people that sell egg, maybe they look out for what is going on in the market, maybe they look out for what other, so there's the price takers and the price makers. So they look out for what this particular company, whatever this company sets as a price, they make their price in accordance to that. So you need to look out for those influencers. You need to look at the factors involved, in her purchase decision, right? Whatever decision that person is making, what are the factors that influence it, right? Reading habits, their aspirations, what they actually want, right? Where do they see themselves, like what they actually want, and what they prefer. That is super important. You don't want to impose a solution on people. You want a solution. You want to get them into a place where they can actually accept the solution you're coming up with. All right? So before I continue, any questions at this point? Any questions?
None. None at the moment.
I do have a question, ma'am.
Yes,
Hello,
I
ma'am.
can hear you.
Okay. In trying to understand our customers, like what are some methods that we can employ to, as I say, better, like to maybe dive into their life, or like if there are some pointers that we can take note of or something.
Yes, that is a very good question, and that is actually the next thing we'll be talking about, right? So you've created a category and say, okay, this is the stakeholder that I believe I'm solving for, right? The next thing is to draft out a method for interacting with that person. Now, your method is really based on whatever circumstance you're in, right? So usually the major ones are like interviews and surveys. Questionnaires is also another option. You can also rely on data, right? You can rely on data. Basically, any data that is readily available on the internet can help you build a customer profile, right? But the most effective one is interviews, and usually interviews, conversations with these people. So you can have a sit down conversation where you bring the person into a space and you have a conversation with the person. You're bringing the person out of their normal space. Another, you could go to where they are and observe them, right? Like we see what IDEO did, right? They had someone stay with the moms all through their day for like a week, studying what they do, right? You could have that. You could also have interviews with them in their own space, so that as they're explaining their problems, you're seeing the reaction they have, like with respect to their environment. They can point out to someone or something that can also give you some insights, right? Usually, the best is conversations. Questionnaires are also a good access depending on who you're interacting with. For some time, maybe you need to interact with companies, and possibly you may not have access to the major people. You can just push out some questionnaires and questions for them to sort of fill, right? But the most valuable one is when you're in a conversation, you're seeing their reaction, you're able to read the environment, you're able to read their body language, and it also influences you with the kind of questions to ask. The major tool, I would say, for drawing out information from people is by asking questions, is by interacting with them. You must have questions like prepared for them, right? So let me show you something that would also help in this process. I'll be sharing my screen. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I'll be sharing.
Yes, yes, I
All
can.
right, great. I'll be sharing a template with you before the end of this session. But still, take note of these very important points, right? When you're about to have a conversation uh, with a stakeholder, you need to have a goal. What is the goal of this conversation? What am I going to drive at? What am I trying to drive at, right? You want to make sure that you have some form of guidelines to help you in your conversation, right? But there are also personal information that you need, the age, the gender, and so on and so forth. You also need to know, like, where they are right now. If it's a farmer, how many farms, how many acres, how many hectares, how many workers does he have, how many, basically things that are relevant to his role. So for construction companies, the same. How many workers, how many projects have they worked on, how many real estate or construction projects do they have ongoing, right? So relevant information with respect to that industry or the stakeholders profession, right? You also want to understand what is important to them um, when considering like so the most important thing is that you want to understand what's important to them. What are their fears? What are their troubles? What is driving their decision making process, right? You need to have like a list of questions penned down. But the most important thing is your mindset. Your mindset is not to go to them and present a solution and ask them to confirm if that solution works. Your goal is to go to them, find out the, if this is a major problem for them, what are the other problems that they have, and what are the possible ways you can actually, they would prefer that this problem is solved. How are they currently solving the problem, right? That is the most important thing. I would recommend a book, right, by Rob. It's called The Mom Test. The Mom Test basically is a book that helps you, it more or less guides you
Yeah. After this, it does the pass. scanning network. Hello, Cynthia. Just if the call only will come out of it.
Wait, let me quickly pause that.
What the
I should have also goes back. Oh, now should go off.
Hello. Hello, Emmanuel, can you guys hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, so I'm guessing okay, she's back. All right.
Task that would help you in the customer research process, right? And so once that is done, the next thing you do is to define your customer persona, right? And I'm going to be sharing with you a template, more or less like a guide,
I'm not sure.
right?
I want to see this.
Don't move around, that's what it's there.
Recording is printed.
Okay. So at the end of the day, what you have is a customer persona, and in that customer persona, it's always good to have it written down, documented somewhere. The most important thing about the entire process, this research process, is to write, document as much as possible. The more you document, the more you're able to see everything on a plain screen, and you're able to make better decisions. So at the end of the day, you will have something like this where you have um, a title to a particular category. So you could call Sheun Farm, or you could call Tunde the young professional living in Lagos, right? So you would have the background, you have the demographics, the goals that he, has, and then challenges, biggest fears, hobbies, and interests, basically aspirations, based on all those things that I shared with you earlier. And then once you have that done, you will then go on to use that to build your template. So I'm going to share with you a template which will be sent after that. That will be what you would use to build your profile. Okay. All right. So yes. So this is the template. How to properly build a customer persona. So for this, just confirm you can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is a template. You can have the picture of the person and aspiration. The aspirational quote is basically saying, "I would love." So if it's a farmer trying to, you're trying to solve a problem for a farmer, the farmer will say, "I would love to have my product. I would love to sell my product as quickly as possible and make enough money for my family." Right? That is something that you need to put out there. Then you also need to look at suggestive words to capture the spirit of the persona. So it could be a rising or a rising farmer, or a green construction company, right? Just basically a description. This will help you sort of describe the person, and then you talk about the ecosystem. Ecosystem basically saying who are the people this person is interacting with. So for the farmer, who is he constantly interacting with? He's interacting with this supplier, that person, or this person, or that stakeholder, and so on. You look at the motivations, you look at the needs, you look at the success, and then you look at the portfolio. So basically, in summary, the most important thing, how do you go about this process? The first thing is, what problem am I solving? The second thing is, who am I solving for? The third thing is, go now and talk to those people, right? Develop a questionnaire, right? Develop a list of questions that will help you in your conversation, right? Draw out insights from that conversation and use that to build your customer persona. And in that whole process, you're also observing very important things which will help you further build a wonderful product, right? So because we're short on time, I'll just send you some templates that will guide you in the whole process. And yes, you definitely be able to have a better understanding of your customers. Any questions? Any questions?
No questions. No questions.
All right. So over to you, Benjamin.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Cynthia, for that. So, like I said, just kindly jot down your questions as every speaker is speaking, so that by the end of our session, we'll have about 25 minutes for questions and answers, right? So that way we can save more time. So, yes, I think at this point, I would like to call upon Ben. Ben will come and take us on the other parts of this course lecture. Over to you, Ben.
Okay. Um, give me a minute. Let me put up my screen. So I share this. Okay. Thank you very much, Cynthia, for laying the foundations and the groundwork for all of us to understand that founders don't build in isolation. That's a great need to carry your customers along. And a vital point of that is, first of all, getting to understand them, understand their pain points, their needs, and following the trail to building an excellent product that they love and will patronize you going forward. And I'll be speaking on customer relationship management. So it's one thing to build a product that customers love. It's another thing to build a relationship around it, to build a relationship around the service you're offering that particular client or that particular customer. All right. You just as a founder, your mandate is not just to build a product and push it to the markets, hoping that, oh yes, I know these customers will love my products, and I trust them to know how to use the product end to end. I trust them to know how to fix whatever glitches that may come. No, no, no. It doesn't really work that way. There's a lot of things to consider in building customer a very vital and quality customer relationship. Right, I'm going to take a deep dive into that. So CRM, and again, customer relationship management. It's first of all about the people, the process, and then the technology. All right. In a nutshell, customer relationship talks about, you know, the various intersection in which you and the customers meet to address an issue, to communicate, to deliver value, right, throughout the entire customer life cycle, right, from when they come across your product to sign up to usage to end of usage across that life cycle. The point where you get to interact with your customer is basically what we refer to as customer relationship management, and there are there are various reasons why customer relationship management is very critical. That as an early stage startup founder, you start to consider how to build it into your systems and your operations, right? So one of the reasons why you'd want to, looking at the diagram we have on the left side, one of the reasons why you'd want to have this very valuable relationship with your customer is for the sake of loyalty. First off, you have to understand you're not the only one in the market. You have a lot of competitors, and so there's a need to constantly, devise ways and means that you cater for your customer. You're constantly in their faces at the right time, for them to utilize your product, right? Some of us use a lot of social media apps. Every once in a while, we get a notification that, oh, this person tagged you, that person tagged you. The reason why why that feature is there, or one of the reasons why it's there, is so that um, we would be able to utilize the platform as much as possible as compared to other competitors, and in that process build loyalty over time. The thing about customer relationship is, again, retention, and it's very critical to figure this out at early stages. How to build in features, how to create reward programs across um, um, your product life cycle, such that your customer sees value in it and they're able to use your product. A typical example for is Uber and perhaps Taxify. So there's how you get to um, use the platform, to book rides for a period of time, and then you get to receive bonus, right? To be like, okay, you have three free rides, you have a discount of so so percentage, and that's a way to build customer loyalty. And how do you think they're able to achieve that? Because they've been able to study your data over time to realize that, oh, okay, Emmanuel is a customer, is a constant user of this platform. This is the frequency at which he uses this platform. It's just fair that, in order to imbue customer retention, we offer this reward program, sort of incentivizing you to use the platform more. And then service being another vital reason why customer relationship is important. So building tech products or even physical products like AK Bricks, there are times when your products. So there's this classical saying that no product is final. Up until date, Instagram as a platform, they are still running updates. Um, Apple as an hardware are still running updates on their platform. So the thing about service here is that, given that you're able to build a sort of rapport with your customer, you should have this thing in mind where you're able to gather feedbacks from them to improve the service you're offering, or to better make you deliver on your product as much as possible. All right. Again, it boils down to what I said earlier. You just don't launch your product and leave it for the customers to figure it out all by themselves. And a perfect way to um, create a room to hear their opinion, for them to hear their opinion and their views, is creating a platform for customer support, for example, a number they could dial, an email they could write to, right, so that you can get their feedbacks and respond as promptly as possible. Another thing is reliability, you know, and the reason why reliability is important, or one of the key features to CRM, is that there are times when your product will perhaps face downtime, which means it's offline, or there's a glitch for whatever reason, or your product turns out to not be as efficient as possible. That is already creating um, a mental picture in the mind of your clients that, okay, poor customer experience, and they are wondering if you're able to deliver as much as possible on your product. So again, if you're able to build an efficient CRM, this is where you get to um, get in contact with them as much as possible, and they trust you to deliver or to respond to their calls whenever they reach out, or whatever may be the case that they are facing with your product, right? Another thing is improvement. Oftentimes we, as founders, a lot of founders get stuck in this mindset that, what, we've launched our products, it just seems as perfect as it can ever get. Our customers love it, and then there's no need to run iterations. Let's just keep raking in revenues. You know, but given the world we live in, where technology is driving a lot of efficiency and innovation is right at our corridors every now and then, there's always the need to factor in improvements. At what touch points, what feature, what um, angle can you tweak to make that customer experience more bespoke, um, more value driven for your customers, right? So again, the thing about CRM is it enables a founder or an organization to figure out areas where improvements can be made, and this can be carried out through different means. So for example, it's not until a customer calls you to be like, oh, okay, can you improve on this? Most times customers don't even know where what touch points they need an improvement in, what areas in your products they love to have more experience in. But guess what? Given data you have been able to collate over time, it's an opportunity for you to, analyze your data and make critical decisions to be like, okay, given this pattern of customer usage of our products, why don't we tick this or why don't we improve this to achieve X results, to achieve Y results? So just opening yourself to understanding data and opening your your product lines to um, receiving feedbacks across the customer life cycle or customer interaction with your products can really be the game changer for you, for your product or service to scale and for you to stay ahead of competition. So the next one is marketing. Marketing is very, very critical in customer relationship management. In fact, that is it's one of the crux, right? Most oftentimes, and given the kind of psychographic, given the psychographic nature of today's customers are not looking for, are not just looking for a buy and sell. Customers are morphing from a transactional mindset to a relationship building mindset. Now, what that means is the brands that will survive tomorrow are those that are able to factor in, just like Cynthia said, personnel. Once you're able to understand, you know, the default nature of your customer group, it's going to really help you address them at scale or create value for them at scale, right? So the thing about about CRM and how marketing as a factor is critical is that it gives you the opportunity to understand your customer and then factor in what's the best route to scaling this product. For example, there are some products that have scaled through word of mouth than digital adverts. There are some products that have scaled, through offline marketing than online marketing, right? So it's about having to understand what your data is telling you over time and the feedbacks you've gotten from your customer through constant relationship building. You're able to understand what works for you, what works for your customer demography, what works for the segment you're playing in, and then you double down on it, right? Another thing is quality. Um, Wants are insatiable, and customers are steadily looking for what could um, possibly save time or save money, or maybe both. So you want to factor in quality as much as possible. You want to figure out, as a founder building tech products and even non-tech products, you want to figure out, okay, what hazards or what risk does your product um, create for your customer group, and as much as possible you try to mitigate it. What downtimes does your product is your product prone to? For example, there are platforms, the early days of Facebook and the early days of some nice social media platforms that we used to know back then, BBN. You know, these are platforms that at certain hours of the days, the server is just down for whatever reason. And fast forward to today's world, customers are becoming impatient as regards, okay, let me give these people time to take care of things in-house and probably they get their network back on track. No, the idea is to stay ahead of the curve as much as possible. So again, if you're able to build a bespoke customer relationship, it gives you the opportunity to, innovate way ahead of time to offer quality products. And, as a side note, customers get to make excuses for you. And that's one intrinsic nature about building very good relationships. They'll be like, okay, this product's um, interface may not be good, they face one or two downtimes, but damn, I love their customer service so much, right? That alone can be the reason why they'll stick to or why they'll be loyal to your products over your competitors, right? And then support. I cannot say enough of this. The idea of the idea of CRM is to figure out areas where you can, you know, help your customers fulfill their daily routines, their daily needs, right, as much as possible. Um, some of the best customer service or customer relationships are those that even transcend the reason why they're using your product to other parts of their daily lives, right? So as a founder, you want to factor in, you want to provide value at all costs, 360 value within the confines of your products, or your service and outside. Lastly, we're going to talk about satisfaction, and this is the major reason why you'd have return customers, and customers will become, you get to be the fandom around your customer segments. Fandom means, your customers becoming your brand ambassadors without you paying a dime for it, right? An example is Tesla. The reason why Tesla today is because, in fact, a lot of us in Africa don't use Tesla, but we are fans of Tesla because these guys have been able to, touch every single area I've talked about and even more. So you want to offer satisfaction as much as possible. There's a reason why we have 5-star rating after your Uber ride, right? A rating system to show, okay, this is the rate at which customers are satisfied with my product. This is the way at which customers are dissatisfied with my product, and it helps you iterate faster. It helps you, innovate faster, as fast as can be, right? So let's talk about CRM, customer relationship management in design thinking process. I don't know if any of us is familiar with this design thinking methodology, but I'll be as brief with it as I can. Now, this design thinking 101, the diagram on the left hand side, basically shows the stage at which you get to ideate on your product, um, to when you get to deliver on your product, right? Let me start with ideate, right? What we have down here. You generate a range of crazy ideas and creative ones as well, of course. Um, You'll be like, okay, I want to offer X service to customer A, I want to offer Y service to customer B. And then what do you do after that? You build real tactile representations for a range of your ideas. This could be low fidelity prototypes, high fidelity prototypes, something to show a virtual or visual representation of your crazy creative ideas. And what do you do next? You return to your users for feedback, right? So you have something they can relate to on a visual basis. So this is where you run them through it and ask them, okay, what do you think about this process? What do you think about this product? Does it meet your need? If you were to change anything in the product, what would you change? If you were to leave anything in the product process, what would you leave? Right? Ask as much questions as possible, to gather qualitative and quantitative feedback from your customer group. And then what do? You implement. So, given the feedback you get from your customers, um, you make iterations where necessary. You you leave what's meant to be there, and what do? You implement whatever feedback they've. After you've imbibed it into your product, you've iterated, then you take it back into the market, um, to see, okay, if this is a product customers will be willing to pay for, at what price, and for how long you'd get to use their services. So along the course of this incubation class, we are going to, I believe, yeah, we are going to talk about lifetime value, which means how long it takes for a customer to use a product, right? So there are some products that are one-off, there are some products that your customer interfaces, for a period of 3 months. There are some products that customers use for, say, once a year. Products like social media platforms, it's a platform we use every day. So when we get to that curriculum, we'll dive deeper into it. And then we look at empathize. The reason why I'm picking this lastly, as a precursor to the next diagram on the right hand side. So you conduct research to develop understanding of your users as much as possible. So even after you've implemented, that's not the end. Like I said earlier, there's a need to constantly build this relationship so that you're able to tap into their mindsets. Individuals grow every day, perspective shifts, needs and wants shifts, and so is your product meant to be. So even as your product is, out there in the market, you want to create a funnel to collate data, to analyze data, to structure data, to better help you empathize with your customer, conduct deeper research into their needs, understand them on a deeper level, and then build further. And this is one of the reasons why AI is AI today, right? Understanding deeper aspects of the human psychology and imbuing it into a product process, right? Um, and then the diagram on the right hand side speaks more about empathy, right? So Emmanuel Adekunle asked a question um, some 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 minutes back, and this diagram really came to mind. So, when conducting your customer research, you're trying to empathize with your customer to understanding what they need or understanding how to offer your service to them. You want to factor in these four cardinal points: what they think and feel, what they see, what they say and do, and what they hear. You know, and running customer interview or service can be so it takes both your mind and your heart to to really gauge or get quality information from them. Sometimes what customer say is not they often don't mean what they say, right? And I hope we are able to understand that. Sometimes they'll be like, okay, I want you to help me solve problem X, but really their pain point is problem Y. So it takes a lot of empathy, a lot of you know um, guided questions, right? Objective questions to really burrow through and take a deep dive into what exactly is this customer trying to see, what exactly is their pain point, and what is the ideal gain, ideal solution that will tackle this pain point once and for all, right? So here's a question to Adekunle and Akonji. Given the cycle on the left hand side, at what at what points in this process do you get to interact with your customer, right? Do you get to build that relationship management with them? And go first.
I'll say during launch, the question is not really clear, but I think the, the time when you interact with customers will be like before launching your product and also after launching the product.
Okay, so
I don't know if that.
looking at the diagram, where can you attribute that to? What stage in the diagram can you attribute what you just said? The left one on the left hand side, yeah. Hello?
During prototype and then define.
Okay, okay, noted. How are you, Akanji?
Yeah, for me, I feel from the ideate stage, because at that point you're still trying to develop the basis for you to solve and create a solution to the problem you've identified. So talking with the customers and interacting with them can actually help you to pick a base point to start from. Then through every stage, I think it's best to still keep in touch with them, as that will help you clearly identify what they are facing and whether there's need for a change in the solution you're offering.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. So, to reiterate on the question is we're talking about CRM, right? Customer relationship management. And the question is at what point do you or does your product get to intersect with the customer? And the correct answer is at testing stage, right? That's where you interact with your customer to be like, okay, now what do you think about this to get their feedback? That's one stage. And the second stage is empathy, really. I'm taking out implementation, right? So it's testing and empathy. This is the two places where CRM plays very strong roles, right? Interfacing with your customers as much as possible. So during the testing phase and during the empathizing phase, right? Um, let's
Okay, sir.
yeah, okay,
Okay, sir.
yeah. Let's breeze through this. Um, why CRM benefits businesses. So we've talked about the process, we've talked about the people. Now let's talk about the technology behind CRM. You know, um, the world is a lot more advanced to run a lot of things manually, right? So one of the key features, or given the first point we have here, is to build a better and faster customer service, right? There are organizations and companies that still use physical human representatives, right, as customer support and customer service, it works fine for them, given their objective and the structure of the organization. And there are some organizations that simply use AI, chatbots, and and the likes to offer customer service at a very fast rate, right? So why CRM benefits businesses is that it gives them the ability to um, um, gather past purchases, past information, build um, um, a mental picture about their customers, 360 as much as possible, and platforms like Facebook and Instagram, I'm one of those people that believe that these platforms know us better than we know ourselves because they've been able to build a psychography of each and every one of us over time, our interactions, our likes, our posting, our taggings, and able to paint this picture of okay, this is who Emmanuel is, right? So as much as possible, CRM at every point of interaction gives us the ability to understand customers and help and provide support when necessary. Second of all, collection of and access to customer data can help businesses identify trends and insights, right? As much as possible. So, there are three steps to a company leading, staying ahead of the curve. There's the hindsight, there's the insight, and there's the foresight. The hindsight is mostly what has already happened. For example, a lot of us can tell the impact of COVID-19 as at 2020. It's a past event. We know about the trends already. Or we're able to give qualitative feedbacks on things that happened previously. Now, insight is more about what we know, given what has happened and what is currently happening. And then foresight is given information of the past and what we know today. How are we able to make quality predictions about tomorrow? And this is where CRM plays a very major role and is very important in building, fandom, customer fandom, right? So again, collecting data across every touch point of your customer using very good CRM tools, you're able to identify trends. Okay, this is where, given the pattern of purchase or given the pattern of usage of my products, this is where I can project the market is leading. This is where I can project um, this is the number I can fix to the growth in customer month on month or year on year, right? And you're able to create this reporting and visualization system where it all makes sense to you and relevant stakeholder groups, right? So, thirdly, CRM helps you automate a lot of menial but necessary, tasks as much as possible, right? Bespoke CRM tools help you um, um, automate things as much as possible, so that you're able to focus your time, energy, and resources into other things that matter, right? It wouldn't be nice if you built a crude platform where, okay, if a customer wants to book a ride, let's say Uber, for example, if a customer wants to book a ride, they have to call a customer support who would help them book a ride. And then, no, 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 no. Everything has been automated where at the comfort of your home, you can offer, there's a self-service feature, which means you can book your ride independently without, you know, having to interface with any persons from the company or organization. Um, I remember way back when the telephone industry, um, started becoming mainstream. You you basically have to call a customer support who will then link you to the person you're trying to call. Look at that process. But thanks to technology, uh, which has been able to help us mitigate and automate a lot of these processes. And some of such software tools are Salesforce and HubSpot. Another thing is the last thing is gathering customer feedback, and how it can help predict customer needs and help mitigate risk. Just like I said earlier, as much as possible, you're able to understand trends and know where the market is going, and then you're able to really understand, okay, customers solved problem A, problem B with your platform, but guess what? How about I add another feature to help them solve problem C on my platform, right? You're able to predict customers' needs as much as possible, right? And guess what? You happen to build a very bespoke customer retention um, system into your product or your service, right? So let's talk about some of the tools you can leverage um, to gather initial market insights. We're talking about technologies now. We've talked about people, we've talked about processes, and now the technologies you need. Right. Given the stage at which you guys are, right, the tools you'll be needing is more on the survey softwares and data visualization tools. SEO probably for later time. So, for example, think with Google Research Tool is a tool I've used, time and time again, and it's very effective, right? You get to understand, you get to see insights about a product or service across different demography, and you get to see how the product or service has been trending over, a couple of years. Very interesting tool to explore. Again, these tools you have here are mostly free. So some of them have the freemium feature. So before you go ahead to sign up and use the platform, be sure to run your due diligence, understanding, okay, this is a free platform, and if it's a freemium, you get to pace yourself, right, as much as possible, right, as how you can utilize it before you get to pay for the platform. You have Make My Persona. It's a very good tool that allows you to create a buyer persona. Cynthia spoke about this earlier, right? For your potential new products, we have Statista. Statista is, giving my other work, which is as a consultant. Statista is one awesome platform where we get to extract very useful data from as much as possible. So leverage that as much as possible. Claritas, my best segment, is another awesome tool to understand an area's demographic information and the area's inhabitants' lifestyle habits. SurveyMonkey is quite a popular one. I'm sure a couple of us know about it. It's a powerful tool for creating in-depth market research surveys, right? And then we have Typeform. I've used Typeform previously as well. It's a freemium product. So again, try to understand the basis or the objective behind using each of these products, and to make sure that you have the adequate resources to um, to use the product, right, in terms of financing. If you want to subscribe um, um, to a software, you should know that, okay, this is the cost and this is the time frame you'll be using it for, right? Yeah, that's about it for me. Yeah, so I'll let Eric take it from here. Just keep your questions as much as possible, and when Eric is done, we'll take it from there.
Okay. Benjamin for that session. So, without wasting any time, I'll just jump into why it is important you build a wait list. So, I'm going to be speaking from two perspectives. One being on the need for you, on why a wait list is important for you as a founder and for you as a startup owner, right? So, and also the second perspective will be from the perspective of how does it shape your outlook with investors when it's time to pitch to investors and you're asking for money. So let me start with that of how a waitlist is important to you. First of all, it helps you develop salesmanship, right? You've just joined the program and you're in the process of developing different aspects of your business, which your product is one of them. And usually and typically, as a founder, you'd get to test, have a taste of virtually all the roles in your company first before, before you start having different people. It's very important you do that across board. A lot of people tell you why don't you hire people that can get it done for you. That's one way to go about it. But as a founder, being that the core of your job is about understanding your business processes, if you don't have an understanding of how every facet of your business works, you're already set up for failure, one. And two, when you're having a problem on the marketing side, for example, you might not really know how best to solve it because you don't have any prior experience, especially as to how it relates to your product. So let me just focus on what we have on the slide here. It helps you develop salesmanship, being that it gives you the opportunity to see or test your ability, uh, to sell your products, which is very important. So if 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 we're not intending to build or help you guys become a founder that can't sell their products. I mean, as a founder, your primary job is sales, right? You need to be able to sell your product across all boards, across your customer groups, across your investor groups. In fact, as a founder and as a CEO of a company, your job is to sell your product to different stakeholders. You need to sell your products to the public. So you're always selling, depending on wherever you find yourself and depending on the audience, you're always selling your product in one way or the other. So yeah, having this mindset, it even helps you even when you're trying to prepare for your pitch session as well. Like, it's something that becomes part of you. So when you want to make an introduction, how do you introduce yourself and what you do? So by the time you're introducing yourself and what you do, you're already pitching about your product, right? So in a nutshell, why it is important for you to have a wait list is, in the process of trying to get this done, it helps you develop salesmanship. I mean, Benjamin and Cynthia have talked extensively about customer engagement and how to go about building a persona for a customer, which all makes. So I think so. One of the reasons why it's important you build a wait list is primarily to develop your salesmanship as yourself. So, for example, I think something happened recently, and we see this a lot with a lot of CEOs that are running big companies. Onyeka Akuma, I think that should be the guy for Farm Crowdy that later moved to My Better Ride, right? And then they've changed it to Trips. So he's the CEO of Trips right now. And recently he happened. So Trips is a platform that's more like they changed from Plenty Worker to Trips. Sorry. So Trips is more like a platform that offers shuttle service or something like that. So he actually drove one of their cars, driving customers that booked for a ride. So the reason he did this was to get to understand things from the perspective of the customers. It's very important. So as a CEO, don't think your job is just on the decks or behind the decks just looking at your computer. But there's a need for you to interface with your customer segment, learn insight and the likes. So these are how important why you should have a wait list. So developing salesmanship is one of them. Then secondly, and this is also important, is it helps you to validate your sales assumption. Now, this is from the other perspective of, I think it cuts across two ways, both from an investor perspective and then from the perspective of a founder. So at some point, I think one of the weeks in this course will be working on financial model, right? This is where we get to develop like a 3-year plan of what your sales figure would look like. This is where you get to we run a full stack financial model to have an understanding of how much you need in terms of fundraising, to have an understanding of where you'll be delegating those funds, creating your budget, and then sales projections, right? So let's say you happen to have some you're projecting to sell 3,000 units of your product, for example, or you are projecting to sell to receive a subscription of 1,000 units in the first month, of your product. So one way you can validate this is using that projection you have, for the entire. Maybe you're projecting a 10% month-on-month growth, for example, in the first year, for example. So you could use that, break it down into the very minute, break it down to the daily sales target. That would be something that can help you, validate your sales figure. So at this stage of your business, trying to interface with your customer, learn from them and the likes, it makes sense to also infuse in what you're doing the possible sales price range for your product, so you can start validating the price for your product as well, so you don't have to come back later on to work on price. So you're having an understanding of, you're interfacing with your customers. They're telling you, oh, this is the kind of problem we're having and we would like for those problems to be solved. You could chip in as one of the questions is, okay, how much are you likely to pay for such a product that could help you solve all these problems you've mentioned. So you just gather those feedbacks collectively and see what the average looks like. Then by the time you run your own assessment, you can find out a perfect fit, and that way you're able to find a good solution price fit or something. Yeah, solution price fit, right? So, but importantly, why developing your financial model, why developing your sales projections, they are usually assumptions. Okay, I'm assuming that um, a customer, for example, if you're selling a software product, this is in the case of Symbios. Let's say you are, at the end of the day, your product happens to be a software solution, then that is based on subscription. So one of the assumptions could be that we are projecting that you know you could, your pricing model could be per farm land, right? So you're charging them for the solution per farmland or per crop or whatever it is. So you're projecting that one farmer could own 5 farmlands, and your assumption is also one farmer could maybe be planting 5 crops at a time. So those could be your assumptions. So by going to interface with customers and relate with them, and getting them to sign a wait list. So usually a wait list is also something we call letters of intent, and a good letter of intent should be one that has the ability to show that a customer is in love with your product, and a customer is willing to pay the demand the price for that product. This is what constitutes a good letter of intent or good wait list, right? So that way you have something bankable that you can actually, okay, these guys, they love my product and they're okay with the pricing. They're just waiting for it to be available, and then when speaking with an investor, it really validates sales assumption that you might have. And so this is one way it helps. A wait list helps to validate sales assumption. The third reason why it's important to have a wait list is it also helps to address what we call a problem solution fit. So in a nutshell, judging from what I've been saying so far about why it's important to have a wait list, by the time a customer agrees to put his or her name, to your letter of intent or to your wait list, not the type we do. So I think I should establish this. So I've seen a lot of founders, they have an approach to wait list. They just develop a random, Google form and then shoot it out there. Just expect people to just sign up, and that's it. So we need to leverage. There's a lot that can be done with wait lists. So what we're trying to teach you guys here is to develop a wait list that can be bankable. Not a wait list you have 1,000 people that signed up, and when it's time for you to run your beta test, you could even get 100 people out of 1,000. It's a very poor metric. That could even mislead you and make you think your product is not needed. Why? It could be that you just threw the link out there, and people that didn't even have any relevance or any correlation with your products just signed up for signing up sake, right? So, but from our approach, we are urging you guys to have a sort of like approach with your customers that allows you to have a wait list that you can bank on, that these guys are sure to use this product. They agree that it solves their problem. They agree that it solves their problem. They agree that what the solutions we say we are bringing, the features we say we are bringing, it's really what will help them solve their problem. And they're also comfortable with the price figure you're asking for the product. This way, you are using one stone to kill multiple birds, even when your product is still in development, right? So I expect the both of you to do these things smartly, like very, very smartly. And that is going to reflect in some of the deliverables we give you guys, right? So the goal is to be able to, you're going to have different phases where you get to, first of all, gather insights. I think Benjamin shared the design playbook, how you can go about the different stages. So when you're still ideating the solution, I think that's where most of you fall in. So you could, first of all, run the preliminary, survey with your customers, but then keep them at bay. Let them know, okay, you're building this, so that like creates some kind of momentum with them. Don't just waste the opportunity, just talk to them and come out. Create a funnel that allows you, even without you being there, you have a way of reaching them and soliciting information from them. And you have that, rapport with them that they should expect to hear from you, to cause, so you can understand better the problems they are facing and also know how to better solve that problem. Like it's not really transactional, it's about you coming from a place of truly wanting to help, really. I mean, I think Ben talked about empathy here, like truly caring about the problems of your customers really help you, build good relationship that would help you develop a bankable wait list, right? So what we want to encourage our founders in this program is to be able to do things differently, right? Not you come here talking we have 5,000 wait lists. I have a startup like that pitching to me some time ago. I have 5,000 wait lists, and I was happy. 5,000 wait lists for a product that is still in the works is something. Okay, now when it's time for rubber to hit the road, you couldn't even convert even 100 of those 5,000 wait lists. So it tells you different things, right? So, but we want to be able to come to a point where we say, we want to be able to come to a point where, as a founder in this program, you're able to say, okay, I have 500 wait lists. You can actually bank on even 90% of those could convert. Those that didn't convert, and those maybe at the point of releasing the product, they happen not to have the finance to pay for it. But aside of that, everything checks out, right? Not some random people that are just signing up for a wait list. Then lastly, which I think this is what Ben and Cynthia already talked about extensively, is to gather user insights, right? So this is also one of the importance of having a wait list. So in a nutshell, I'm going to summarize with why this is very important, even in the outlook of interacting with an investor. It shows, apart from the fact that you've validated some of the sales assumption around your sales projection, it also shows that you've been able to achieve a problem solution fit, depending on the numbers of people you have on your wait list, right? So we have, when we get to the point of building a wait list, this is just, this stage is just for you to gather user insights to develop and shape your product. When we get to the point of developing your market, where you get to actually build actively on creating a wait list, we'll be monitoring that, to see how performance is. Okay, for example, how many people did you talk to? How many people signed up? So you could be monitoring those metrics to observe and know if you need to maybe change your sales pitch or your manner of approach. We'll just be monitoring all those metrics to see if the amount of effort you're putting in is commensurate with the number of signups you get. That shows, is a good sign that yes, your product is needed, right? So these are some of the things you can do even before you start, investing so much in your business, in a startup, right? So gathering user insight is one last one. So from the perspective of an investor, it's very important you're able to ramp up good numbers on wait list, but not just any kind of wait list, bankable wait list actually, that you can actually take to the bank and you can cash it. Like the wait list, if you're selling your product for $4 per subscription, that means if you have 5,000 people on your wait list, that times 4,000, that gives you, like, you can actually call that your sales. You already have something for your first month. So it's also important on the outlook for investors as well. And one last part of my presentation this evening, it's on stakeholder analysis. So we decided to chip this in here. I'm sure you both know that one thing that makes our program different, aside from everything which we are offering, one thing that makes us stand out so far is integrating ESG into your business model and operations. So there's not going to be like a separate course for it. Of course, there is somewhere along the week, I think one of the weeks we are treating ESG integration, but the foundation starts from this point of interfacing with customers. So we figured, since in the entire framework of ESG integration, one of the first things we do is we conduct stakeholder analysis, to have an understanding of the ESG risks and opportunities, across the different stakeholder groups. So since, for the sake of this course and for the sake of this week, you'll be dealing with customers, so we decided to prepare, the stakeholder engagement, form or questionnaire for your customer base. So in a nutshell, ESG is talking about sustainability. So sustainability means environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and then governance. So when we talk about ESG integration, it's about how we can position a business that will have operated as usual, just like every other business in its industry, but ESG integration deals on how we can reposition that business, not just to do business as usual, but to also be an instrument that can help to solve some of the world's environmental problems, social problems, and then some governance issues as well. So in ESG integration, one of the core reasons why it's important for startups is to also be able to, have an understanding of how ESG themes would impact their business model, especially how it will affect the sustainability of their business 20 years, 30 years from now. And this is very important given the fact that we are seeing the visible impact of climate change across different geographies, and this also poses a great threat to businesses and their business model. So one thing we try to do with ESG integration is to further help businesses to account for the impending impact of climate change across their business model, especially how it affects their business. So we help them identify the ESG risks, and then at the same time we help them to identify the opportunities that are also inherent, and then how that can shape their product development. For example, we are consulting for a company. They're in the prop tech space, and it happens to be that while we did a materiality map for them. Materiality map is where we get to understand what ESG factors are material to them, what impending ESG risks are material to them that they should care about, that they should start building resilience into. We are able to identify a lot of material issues for this startup, and so that is us identifying the risks, which could be scary, but also at the same time we are also able to identify the opportunities, which is also shaping their product development now. So they're also capitalizing on an opportunity that is actually giving them a very huge competitive advantage from, I'm talking about global competition, not just local competition. So you see how we're able to use ESG to uncover, not just the risks, but also the opportunities that are also inherent. So by conducting this stakeholder analysis in this phase of a business, you would use this opportunity to, have an understanding of what your customer group think about, the issues of environmental sustainability, the issues of social sustainability. So sorry about that. So the goal is to help you understand what your customers think about these things. Is to help you understand what your customer think about these things, and how to start preparing for resilience, right? So this is very important, given that I think, for example, EK Bricks now, you're working in a very sustainable space, given your product. So it's important to really capture from your customer segment, what they think. In fact, if you do this very well, it will increase buying of your product. It will even make, in fact, if I'm saying this, I would like to see what your questionnaire looks like. You could use this as a starting point, given that everybody is seeing the physical effects of plastic waste all over the place, right? So engaging them, that could be a good entry point, when you are interfacing with your customers. Okay, what do you think about this? That could lead you. So that makes it, when you start asking other questions that you have, it will become more easier for you and the customer, because you're actually solving. We've already started by addressing a problem which everybody can see and is concerned about, right? So it's important for you to, so it's really going to play a key role for you while interfacing with your potential customers. First of all, by bringing this discussion up, it makes you understand what they think about these aspects. Then it improves anticipation of your products. When you're telling them that yes, what you're building is a product that can take these stuff to something useful. So it creates anticipation and really starts to create, healthy anticipation of your product, right? So a lot of people will be interested to see the finished outcome, and that way you can tell them, this is it. Would you like to use this product? Like that, you're already building your wait list as well. So same thing for you as well, Symbiosis, because you are dealing with a sector that is directly impacted by the effects of climate change. I mean, farming, I don't want to talk about the numbers, it's scary. It scares me. I'm sure that we're heading to the point when feeding will become a problem, not because we don't have money to buy food, but we don't have arable lands to plant, right? So the impact of climate change is really eating deep down into the agri sector, and it will be important. And the truth is, when discussing with these customers, most of them don't even understand that it's climate change driven. Why? Because of their level of literacy and the likes. But if you happen to understand the impact of climate change, you understand, okay, they're not having rainfall as usual. They call it weather conditions. That's climate change. That's the impact of climate change. They'll tell you some of them now. There was a report I was reading a couple of days back. A farmer, they've been suffering droughts. It has not rained for a long time, only for it to start raining. They were happy at first, only for them to, lose hope because they knew the rain was going to turn to a flood. And what that means, all their months of, suffering, trying to sow, the rain is just going to wash everything off. So these are some key things that would shape your product. Don't play with this stage. I'm telling you this from experience, consulting for businesses. It's very phenomenal how it really shapes, the product we develop at the end of the day, because you're already creating a blue ocean strategy for yourself. You're doing something entirely unique, but at the same time solving important key problems. And what this means is it's already putting you ahead of the curve. Again, I think I would like to say at this point that when it comes to ESG discussion, sustainability really, gives founders the opportunity to innovate, and at the same time, sustainability is a tool that, I don't want to call it a tool, but it's a concept that's really reshaping the way wealth is being, transferred or being accumulated right now. It's moving from the way any business that keeps running on business as usual up until 2030 will start seeing direct fiscal impact on their bottom line when they ignore ESG principles, right? But the same thing is different for those that are aligned or have integrated ESG into their product and services. By 2030, 2050, these are important milestones. When it comes to the entire sustainable development goals, companies that are able to reposition themselves across different industries are already they are more like acting like the new phase, or the, what would I say, the case study for such companies within that industry, right? So there are so many trends that are really shaping this transition. For example, customers are beginning to demand for more what do you call it, more sustainable products and services, right? So this means is that customers are willing to pay. The data is available. Customers are willing to pay for products and services that are sustainable, that are addressing environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and the likes. And I think there was a news I saw yesterday. There was a company founder 6 years ago. He decided to focus more on the social sustainability aspect of his business, and he did something very phenomenal. And 6 years after, it yielded to a very huge returns. It translated to a very huge return on investment. So he decided to, instead of earning $1 million plus as salary, he decided to earn 70,000 and place all his workers at $70,000 minimum wage. This is beyond the minimum wage level in America at the moment, at the time. And when he did that, people called him foolish, that his business is going to die. They said a lot of things about him. But the truth is that we forget that people will always be the biggest component, both in life and in business. When you take care of people, it has a lot of ripple effect. So when COVID hit, something happened. Because he's been able to, care for his employees that way. A CEO that decided to, cut down on his own cost from $1.2 million, to $70,000. I mean, that is something else. So that he can be able to pay every one of his staff members $70,000 on minimum wage. That already bought loyalty for him. So this is him paying attention to the S part of ESG, right? And at the end of the day, when COVID hit, a lot of people were downsizing, a lot of companies. So when COVID hit, they lost about 54% of their revenue straight up when COVID hit. So what this means, they are earning less and they have huge, expenditure to make. So what that means, what most companies were doing we had to lay off staffs and sack people. So what they did, they just put out an open call, telling their people, okay, this is it. This is the situation we find ourselves in, and we would like to, ask for a pay cut just so that we recover. And their staffs willingly, without arguing, they agreed to any terms that they brought to the board, and they gave themselves to the whole thing. And what we saw that they made three times what they've been making before COVID and the likes, right? It had a lot of translation down to their bottom line, their brand image, the customer, like a lot of sustainable return on investment across board just by focusing on the expert, right? So, in a nutshell, why I'm saying this, I know we're going to discuss ESG very well when we get to that point in the class, but I'm bringing this up so that you can take this, stage of interaction with your customer group very serious, really keen. You see the questionnaire. We share that after this class, so you can add it to whatever general questionnaire you're creating, so you can use that to understand how climate change or how ESG is impacting, your customers. It's very important for them because these guys are also actively being impacted by ESG themes as well. So yeah, I think that's all from my end. In a wrap, we'll get to the Q&A session, but before we get to that place, I'd just like to point out these are few of the deliverables. This week is going to be different from what we had last week. So it's more or less like we've already started, right? So like I said again, the goal for this program is to make it action-based, to see how we can turn your startups from just the idea stage to a startup that investors are willing to throw in the first check, after 3 months, right? So what this means, we are actively building. So the task for this week involves designing your customer survey. So given everything we've shared with you guys today, both the ones, the template Cynthia is going to make available for you guys as well, you use all that, and the one we'll also be making available for you regarding ESG stakeholder analysis. Use that to create a single customer survey form that is well structured, strategically structured, not just random questions, but strategic questions that is helping. Each of the questions there is shaping something about your business. If it's not touching your product, it is validating your price, it is helping you understand insights. It has to be useful, right? So you have the first task is to design a customer survey. Then the second task would be to conduct, a customer research, and where you get to identify pain points. That is using what you've already designed from the survey. Use that to conduct customer research. So interface with them. Go out there, get your hands dirty. Go out there, talk with your customers. This is the most important stage. So you can shape the features of your product, please. And I will state here again that you have very short time to do this. So today is Monday. After this class, I would advise you just get started on this as soon as you can, so that you can make up the time. So what we want to do is that by the time you are having your office hours with each of the partners, we are actually touching on something key. You're telling us, okay, this is it. Like I think then we'll come and share more insight as to how that would flow. But yes, what that means is you don't have any time to really relax on anything. Get started on working on this. Remember, the goal is to make the next 4 years count for you. The next 5 years, let it worth something for you. That is what we are interested in doing, and that means all hands on deck, right? So the final task here. So this is more like the end result of the whole thing will be to see if within this week can we be able to discover problem solution. Can we be able to discover a problem solution fit? So create a focus group. Look for 10, 20, the more you can find, better. 10, 20 customer groups. Have them, use them as your focus group, so you can use them to gather any feedback, any insights, and keep growing that number. So don't be shy or scared to talk to your customers. You need to, if you are the type that you're introverted, please, this is the time you bring out the extrovert part of yourself. Go out there. You have a team already. Go and interact with your customers. That's the best way you receive insights that can help you shape a good product that customers want. You're not building for customers, like you're not building what you think customers need, but rather you're building what customers have told you that this is what we need, and this is the kind of solution we're expecting. That way it makes market adoption easier, right? So in this program, we're going to be building very stealthily and very in a very sophisticated manner. And so this means whatever you have in terms of delivery, we use that as an advantage to develop further what you're doing. So yeah, that's the end of this class, and I think at this point we'll be taking questions from every one of you. So yes, all the questions you have, we'll do this until 6 p.m. So this is 5:42. So yes, if you have questions, you can ask now.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I have two questions. I have two questions here. One, during your presentation, you said something about a sales team, and then I'm just looking at like the whole startup idea, and I'm like, is how important is like a dedicated sales team? How important is it at the early stages of a startup?
Okay.
Considering having a dedicated sales team is kind of like additional cost or
Yeah.
something, but like exactly is the can we say the cost of having a dedicated sales team, does it like what the I don't know how to put
Yeah, I
it,
get your
but like
question.
the importance. Okay, exactly.
I know.
Then the second one is that is it the wait list now? Like is it uh, is it for every business? Like business does every startup need the wait list? Does every product need that wait list?
Okay. So the first question, which is on um, having a additional sales team. So when I was speaking, I was referring to it helps you develop salesmanship, right? So again, let me bring it back to now. I don't know how. Of course, different startups have different ways. Different programs have different ways of building startups and the likes. But the approach we like to take here, and that's the approach we know about, is following a lean methodology. Like we do what is important at. We know it's important right now to have a sales team, a marketing, CTO, CMO, all those executive roles, which are all important to running a business. But that might not be our focus right now. We're more interested in doing what is necessary at any given stage that we are in, right? So when I was talking about uh, salesmanship, I wasn't referring to you having a sales team to help you close the sale. I was even talking about you as a founder, and together with your current team that you have right now, you move out there to conduct um, the wait list and the customer survey aspect. You are the founder. This is your stage. So when I was talking about developing salesmanship, is that what that means is for you to be able to convince someone or stop someone and talk to the person, and you're trying to talk to the person about your product, telling the person, okay, you're trying to conduct a survey that means you've been able, if the person agrees to give you audience and give you their time, you've been able to develop some level of, you're developing how to sell your product and yourself. So that's what I meant here, not necessarily having a sales team to help you do that. Of course, if your current team members consist of anybody in the sales department, I mean, it's also an advantage. But at this point, we're not talking about going to bring in people to help you go do customer survey that you need to pay. If they're coming in to do it on a pro bono basis, fine. But if you have to pay them, it's not advisable right now, because more importantly, the reason why you're doing this is to gather insight about your customer, about your ideal customer, shape what their persona will look like, and then use the insight you gather to shape your product development. So it's basically you yourself, and not typically a salesperson that is just, okay, I just want to conduct a transaction, sell this, and then I pull out. So that's that. So this, regarding the second question, I'm not good at throwing too much question at me and then I take it. So yeah, if every product needs a wait list. So I think to answer that question simply, I'll just point you to each of these factors that I've mentioned: developing salesmanship, validating sales assumption, problem solution fit, gather user insight. I mean, this is universal, this is general, right? So this is one why you should, have a wait list. Mostly I've realized that a lot of founders pay attention on so many external features of their business without really doing much in trying to build a market for their intended product. I mean, how will you know that what you're building, there is a market for it? Or how can you gauge enthusiasm of the product you're building, of the cost for your target audience? How will you know all these things if you don't go out there to interact with them and gather a wait list? So yes, it's important you build a wait list. So, but it will be different if at this stage now you have a product right now. We won't be talking about wait lists. What we'll be using to measure your metric now will be number of sales. So instead of us talking about wait lists, we're talking of sales. So in a way, you could say that wait list, it just means um, we're just converting it to sales. It's just like something we are trying to use to measure what the sales would look like. Remember I said a good wait list has to be something that is bankable, right? So again, I think to answer your question directly, it's important that every business, that if you are pre-product, should start building a wait list for your product. Very important. More than these 4 points here, there are lots of reasons why it's important you do that, right? So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Um, I also have I have like two questions to ask. The first of all is during Mr. Benjamin's session, then he talked about that it's at the testing and empathy stage that it's best to discuss with your target consumers and understand, as that will help foster a consumer focused relationship management, helps to build a stronger base for that. But the question I have is, even before getting to that stage, I feel there's still a way that we need to talk to the customers first at the ideation stage. Or is there a mix up somewhere? I need clarity on that. And the second question is on the ESG, the stakeholder analysis at the ESG stage you just talked about, Mr. Henry. Is there a possible scenario that after doing the stakeholder analysis and the ESG analysis, it might want to force you to actually take a pivot from what your current solution you are coming up with? Because you said something that the farming sector is they're actually facing it. They have a lot of impact on the climate, and in the next few years, we might likely not have enough resources to produce enough food for the amount of population we are having. So at that point, for people developing ideas in the agri sector, hearing that kind of news is like almost pushing them towards taking a pivot on the kind of solution they are trying to offer, or try to offer something much better or a lot more streamlined.
Okay. I don't know. You want to go for the first question? Okay. So what will happen is, I'm going to answer this question because I get the question. Then you have to ask Benjamin again what the question is. So this is my response to this. So when I'm talking about ESG stakeholder engagement, it's really from a place of opportunity. So this is something I've been doing for a while. So when we talk about ESG integration, or stakeholder engagement, or the effect that ESG will have on businesses, it's about, just think of it, COVID-19. When COVID-19 hit, a lot of businesses were not prepared, and as we are speaking, that some businesses that have not yet, a lot of business stopped operating. Some of them have not come back. Most of them have declared bankruptcy. There are some businesses that are currently struggling just because of something happened, which is COVID. It just shut down the entire economy of global economy. Now the same thing, that's more like the pandemic kind of like painted a picture of what it could look like when we start having extreme climate impact, across different sectors, across different geographies, basically. For example, Lagos State is a climate hotspot. So one of the material issues that Lagos State is going to be facing as regarding climate impact is flooding. Flooding, we're going to be seeing that a lot, and it's already evident. We had very heavy torrential rainfall today, and when you start seeing pictures around, you'll be scared. So think of what that does to, let's say, people that farm around Lagos State and Ogun State and all these areas that are affected by flooding. Now, if we want to think of it, the northern part of the country is also one of the climate, condition that is very prone to them, or material issue for them, is drought. Think of what that does to the agri sector as well. So, considering these ESG material issues, it would better help you to develop a more sophisticated product that accounts for that. So, it shouldn't scare you that these things are happening. Rather, it should give you an advantage. Like I've said, again, this is what we are seeing. I mean, the companies we're already consulting for, this is it. We are reshaping their product, not from a bad side, but rather on a more competitive and advantageous point of view. So we are adding more value to them just by them paying attention to what the ESG risks could be, and then capitalizing on the opportunity. So it's about risks and opportunity, right? So that's that for regarding your product and interacting with stakeholders. The best thing what it does here in a nutshell, it helps you better. You are better informed about what their problems are. Okay, imagine you aren't considering ESG stakeholder analysis. You're just going there to conduct normal customer survey. The only insight you will get from these guys will be just insight that will help you solve their problem, and then it will help you account for the impending risks on their business in terms of ESG, right? So we have different stages to this whole ESG integration thing. The first one is just hear from your customers what they can already tell you about the impact of ESG or impact of sustainability. And then another thing we do is to on our own, we have tools and resources that we use to properly map a holistic materiality matrix for your business model. That way you have an idea of what could happen to your business when when drought is affecting an area where you happen to be playing a key role in. It will help you map out all these things. Then what you do is start preparing for that. Even right now you're still on product development to shape your product to be resilient. The end goal is to make sure that your business model is resilient even when the impact of climate change and the likes is already visible and already mainstream. You already have built in sustainability into your business. So that's what I can say. So regarding the first question, you can ask Ben again.
Okay. I'll come again with the question. My question was, he said that it's at the testing and empathy stage, that's when it's actually great to build a strong interaction with the customers so you can get feedback. My question is it just exactly at that testing and empathy stage that we need to start talking with them? Can't we not start talking about understanding them and their views of things directly from the ideate stage?
Yeah, you're definitely right about it. You can start to involve them at ideation stage, even at implementation stage, right? So the reason why I picked those two things as the focal area is, it's really a touch point where you get to build that relationship, right, as much as possible. It cuts across the entire cycle, but I just handpicked those two being areas where you can leverage as much as possible to understand them on a deeper level and getting qualitative and quantitative feedback from them. But yes, you're right, it does cut across other factors, other channels here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I'm done with my question.
Okay. I think we have someone on the call. Can you introduce yourself, Lou, or what? I think you can hear us. Oh, okay. So while I don't know if he's there, so Emmanuel Akanji, he's the one. Is he the one that asked the question?
Yeah.
So if you have a question, Emmanuel Adekunle, you can go ahead.
They're both asked.
I've already asked my question.
Okay.
Sorry, before you go ahead with your right, I just want to drop a few points for the waitlist question, right? Henry has definitely explained the essence of the waitlist, especially if you're looking for investors, right? There's also what they call the letter of intent, right? For a product that is not ready yet, still defining like the UX, the UI, and so on, how it will work. But you want to get investors to invest in your business, right? You can also get letter of intent from businesses. This usually works for like big businesses. Basically, if you're going to be interacting with businesses, not necessarily for direct consumers. You can build a waitlist where they'll sign up, provide their information, and that shows that they're interested in the product. But if you're going to be interacting with businesses, say for example you want to interact with construction companies or you want to interact with production companies who would sort of adopt whatever product or service, you can get a letter of intent from them. Basically, in that letter of intent, you have that, oh, we're going to be launching this product at this time, and we'll be very interested in, buying into this product. Yeah, and we are so and so company. So what that means is that as you're pitching to investors, to really tell the investor that this product is viable, this product is something that people want. We already have letter of intent from 10 companies, from 20 companies, right? That's also another form of a wait list, a waiting list. Yeah, I just thought to drop that in before finish.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you for that input, Cynthia. Yes. So, any other question from anybody? Even I'm talking. I don't know, Emmanuel. Which of the Emmanuels? I think we have a guest here. Can you introduce him?
Yes.
Yes.
We do have.
So, if you can hear us, you can introduce yourself.
Good evening.
I'm Follow Goshilu.
Okay.
I do marketing. I'm with Emmanuel Konji for Symbios.
Okay. Awesome. It's nice to have you here. So, given that you've listened in so far, do you have any questions you might want to ask any of the partners?
No, I don't have any question.
Okay. All right. So yes, guys, we're still taking questions, but if you don't have,
Okay.
yes.
I still have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, concerning the ESG you talked about, how can one convey that the understanding of the ESG towards getting more responses through the survey?
So how can
Getting
one?
genuine responses from people. Convey the idea of ESG to get more genuine responses from the
Yes.
survey.
So one of the things I said we're going to provide you guys after this call is like a questionnaire, designed to gather stakeholder input for customers.
Okay.
Right. So you just take the questions there and add it to the general questionnaire you're developing, and then use that. Right. So it's not going to be technical. It's just basic things that helps us. We know which one that is addressing environmental sustainability. We know the ones that are addressing social sustainability. So these are all key, metrics. That if you can gather information from these customers, it can help shape and make you more ESG resilient. More sustainable in operations. So.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I think that's all from me.
Okay. So likewise, Emmanuel Adekone, do you have any other question? So we can wrap it up.
No further questions.
Okay, awesome. So yes, we've come to today's discussion. We've come to today's class, and as usual, we'll be sending you guys a feedback form. We'd like to capture what your insights are regarding today's discussion, and how we can further optimize and better the engagements moving forward. But mostly we'll be also sending across to you the informations that we have, the templates from Cynthia, the questionnaire for stakeholder analysis on the ESG part, and then more importantly the task. I don't know if this is projected. The task, again, it's important that I do this. So like I said, it's going to be different from what we've been having so far. So it's important that we get started on it, and so that we can be able to cover a lot of grounds before the week runs out. So again, please don't wait for anything. Please, guys, our advice, just after today's call, just start to reach out to the partners and book, schedule for your office hours, so that we can just. It's crazy how scheduling can be. So let's just do this, and we want to have time for you guys, so we don't want it to interfere with any other thing. So later after the call, go ahead and schedule your office hours with each of the partners. But more importantly, please start work. I think one of you has started designing a survey form already. I think last week. That should have gone, yes. So you already have a head start. So so together with the template Cynthia will share, use that to refine what you already have. Then when you'll be having your first office hour, I don't know with whom, but first thing you should do is to present what you have, your finished, what do you call it, questionnaire, so that the partner will go through to see if it captures the key things. And then, but more importantly, just prepare yourself and your team. You guys should go out there and start gathering feedback. I need you guys to talk to, as much customer as you can. In fact, I will discuss with the partners today, and maybe we could put a number to it, like a target number you're meant to speak with for the week, so you can gather enough information. So yes, just start planning yourself, start planning your engagement with your customer group by tomorrow. So yeah, so by the time we have our office hours with you, we'll be able to have a productive discussion, right? So yes, I think that's all. Thank you so much. We'll speak soon. Yes. Are we having lag? Okay. Interesting. Okay, Cynthia. It's just us now. Are you here?